Hi, this is Brian. Just wanted to walk everybody through the process of getting the Word installed and getting some of the initial stuff downloaded. So we're going to go to theword.net as you'd expect, and then we'll go ahead and click on this download link to download the Word. And now that it's downloaded, go ahead and click through the setup. If you'd like to install this in Dropbox or some way to get to all your data, pick this compact option rather than the normal option. That's the option I'm going to take you through. The idea is that if you have maybe a laptop and a desktop, instead of having two installations of the Word and every time you upgrade or install something new you have to do it in both places, you can just do everything in one place. So pick the compact option and click Next to help make that work. Now, when you're ready to install it, instead of putting it somewhere normal, let's put it in Dropbox. So I'm going to browse over here to where my Dropbox lives. You'll have to figure out where that is on your computer. And tell you what, I'll create a folder to put it in called the Word. So if you notice, I've got it now. Well, that didn't quite work. Let me try that again. I created a folder and it put it where I didn't expect. There we go. So now it says Dropbox the Word wherever Dropbox is on your machine. Then we're just going to click install and let it run. When it's done, we're going to go ahead and run the Word. We will need to go back and make a shortcut for it in the run menu, but I'll come back to that later. Instead, let's go ahead and run the Word. After getting a few startup files ready, it'll next ask you what layout you want to use. And let's just start with the default here. I'm going to click Go on that. Now the screen that comes up is a bit big, so I can only show you part of it. But here's what I prefer to do. I'm going to go ahead and close this Bible view. And then down here, close this one. And also close this one. So in the end, what I end up with is a fairly simple layout. I have the Bible here, so I can do all my Bible reading things here. And I have some books, commentaries, dictionaries, that sort of stuff I can look at over here. The other thing I like to do is go down and show all the modules that I have. It creates this huge number of tabs. So what I'll do is again click on that little thing, and in terms of options, this is off your screen a bit, but I'm going to uncheck tabs in multiple rows, and then you just get a single row of things, and when I want some of the other books I can just go down here and pick them. Next, I'm going to step back for just a minute and come back to an earlier topic. We've got the Word, but you see, because I installed it in Dropbox, it's not going to show up in my Start menu. It does here because I've already made that customization. To put it in your Start menu, it's time for quick Google. I did add a program to the Start menu, Windows 7. You'll do that for your operating system, and then follow the directions. What I did is press the Windows key and tapped E, so Windows plus E opens this file explorer, and then I went to Dropbox, which is where of course I installed it, clicked on the Word. Inside the Word, of course, I don't want that directory, I actually want the program. So if I go down here, this is the thing I want in my Start menu. So what I'm going to do is follow those instructions, follow these instructions for this program. So you'll want to do something similar. And I'll let you work on that. Hopefully there's some nice web pages to walk you through it. Right now, let's go back and look a bit more at the Word in terms of just getting set up and doing a couple basic things. Let's take a quick look at what we have right now. This is a Bible view, so it's going to show us all the Bibles. So we have the English Standard View. This is another translation I'm not terribly familiar with. Here's the King James, another translation called the Net Bible, the Textus Receptus, and the Westminster Leningrad Codex. That's going to be for Hebrew and Greek study things. But you may be missing a few things. Likewise, over here, here's a list of all the books we have. For example, we do have the Treasury of Scriptural Knowledge, which I mentioned on the web page, which I really like. There's a topical textbook, which is not bad. There's places for you to create your own notes. And a book, for example, this is the classic Pilgrim's Progress by John Bunyan. Here's Knaves, where you can go and look up a given topic and look at all the references for that topic and that sort of thing. So let's go and add a few more titles. So here's a list of everything that theWord has, and at this point you can go and get stuff. Most of the stuff here is free. So for example, if you like the New American Standard Version, and there's a couple flavors. Let's see if I can make this just a bit bigger. Looks like we have the classic version and the current version. So for example, I could just go and check that as something that I want to download and install. But before you do that, let's just get a few others. For example, I'm very familiar with the New International Version, so I probably will get that. The New Living Translation is my personal favorite Bible. One that I've liked for doing word studies, if you go down here to the Hebrew Interpolated Study Bible, it's down a bit. So you kind of start out with the English Bibles, and then you go to some of the Greek stuff, and it's sort of down here when you see the original language before you get to other languages, like in Afrikaans or whatever. So that's one thing I like. That's the Bibles that I use, and there's a lot of them, so I'm not going to keep that list open. In terms of commentaries, now some of these are purchased. For example, I have purchased this IVP, and it is great, but it does cost money. So you may want to start with something free. One thing that's kind of nice, if you scroll down here to the Treasury of Scriptural Knowledge Enhanced, they do a slightly better job, and I prefer that one. Now let's take a look at some encyclopedias. On a quick note, whenever you see this blue text, that means things that cost money, as opposed to the black that means it's free. And the thing that I use is the International Standard Bible Encyclopedia. You're welcome to browse through the quite long list and see if there's anything else. There's lots of books you can get and devotionals. There's maps that come installed with it. But there's lots of resources. When you're done, just click download and install and get those set up. Oops, and somehow I selected something paid. Something blue. I'll go back and check that. Oops, I wasn't being careful. The NASB is paid. I'd forgotten about that, as is the NIV and New Living. Those are things I actually purchased because I felt like it was worth it. But if you're getting started, you may not want to do that yet. So I'll just uncheck those and let the program go ahead and install those resources. When the process is done, it'll say it's ready and it needs to restart itself. So we'll just, of course, click yes and let it do that. Be aware on my older laptop, when it goes and builds the index for this HISB, it sits there for quite some time, so be patient with it. It will eventually get there. Like I said, my laptop had to sit there for a couple minutes just to get that index, but when it's up and running, it'll pop up these dialogues saying you've got new stuff, and I'm just going to click yes and let it bring all the new stuff in for me and figure it out later. Alright, so let's take a quick look at what we have. So here's our Bible. So if you want to look at a passage in the Bible, you'd probably start with the ESV. The Net Bible is not bad. When we do word study, we can turn on this. We have all kinds of toggles where if I press the letter I, for example, it turns on the English letters and that sort of thing. We'll come back to that. So we have, and of course we have the classic King James Version, which is useful for some of these Bible study tools that refer directly back to that. If I want to go to a passage in the Bible, my preference is just to type something in here. So notice that it's got a hotkey. If I press F4, then it goes right there, and I can, for example, type in, get rid of this, just type in, let's say, Psalm 5, PS5, and it'll go right there. And that's my preferred way if I just want to jump to some passage in the Bible, and I can read through it. Likewise, if I want to pick a book, I'd like to look up a topic in the International Standard Bible Encyclopedia. And what I can do is just type in a search term here. For example, let's do faith. And there's a couple different options. And here's faith and a whole article that I can look at on faith. Likewise, here's the Treasury of Scriptural Knowledge, the enhanced version, the one I like a little bit better. And again, if I want to just look up a given passage, rather than to click here, I'll click on it. For example, I'm reading, go back to the English Standard Version. I'm reading a bit of Psalms 5, and I want to know about verse 2. So here are all my references, and I just kind of hover my mouse, and it'll show me where are terms about my king and unto thee. Now this is keyed to the King James Version, so it'll make a bit more sense. Here we are at verse 2, hearken unto the voice of my cry, and my God, for unto thee will I pray. So unto thee also shows up in Psalms 3:4. Here's the my king right there, and here's the idea, other places where we have the idea of kingship, and so on and so forth. So that's the Treasury of Scriptural Knowledge very briefly. I've already mentioned Nave's Topical Bible. So again, if I want to look up what are verses on faith, I'll just type faith in there and press enter. And here are, of course, lots of references to faith. And I can just hover, or I can click on it. It'll take me to that passage, and I can read it in context and that sort of thing. And as I go through the articles, there are just hundreds of references. And here's an example of Noah's faith when he built the ark, and so on and so forth. There's a nice topical textbook. And a couple other resources. For example, there's a Parallel Gospels, where they look at all the different places and that a given story takes place in the Gospels, and gives you those verses side by side. But that will at least get you started. I look forward to talking on Wednesday and looking at some more capabilities of the program. Thanks for watching.